7-year-old Kemi stood on a broken wooden box in their small room in Lagos. He held a rusty can like a microphone and sang with all his heart. His voice filled the tiny space, sweet and clear like honey. Kemi, stop that noise and come eat your rice. His grandmother, Mama Sola, called from the kitchen. But Kemi could not stop. When he sang, he felt like flying. When he sang, he forgot they had no money for new shoes. When he sang, he forgot his father had left when he was just a baby. One day, I will sing on TV, Kemi whispered to his reflection in their cracked mirror. And maybe my daddy will see me and come back. Mama Sola appeared in the doorway. Her face was tired, but her eyes were kind. My boy, dreams are good. But we must eat to live. Kemi climbed down and hugged his grandmother's legs. She was all he had. His mother had died when he was 3, and his dad. He was just a shadow in old photos. That night, as Kemi lay on his mat, he heard something on their old radio that made his heart jump. Nigeria's Got Talent is looking for young stars. Auditions start next month in Lagos. Kemi sat up so fast he bumped his head on the low ceiling. This was it. This was his chance. 3 states away in Abuja, St. Matthew Daniel sat in his big office. He wore expensive suits and lived in a house with 20 rooms. But his heart felt empty. St. Matthew was one of Nigeria's most famous music producers. He had discovered many singing stars. But there was one song he could never forget, a lullaby a woman used to sing to their baby boy. Mr. Daniels, you have a meeting about the talent show, his secretary, Grace, reminded him. St. Matthew nodded. He had agreed to be a judge on Nigeria's Got Talent. Maybe finding new talent would help him forget his past. The truth was, St. Matthew had made the biggest mistake of his life 15 years ago. He had left the woman he loved and their baby boy because he was scared. He was young and poor then, and he thought they would be better without him. Now he was rich and successful, but he was alone. Every day, he wondered about his son. What did he look like? Could he sing like his mother? Was he happy? St. Matthew had tried to find them many times, but Lagos was so big, and he didn't know what last name his mother had adopted for him. All he knew was his first name, Kemi. Sir, the talent show producers are here, Grace announced. St. Matthew straightened his tie and walked to the meeting room. He did not know that in just a few weeks, his whole world would change. Mama Sola, please. Kemi begged, pulling on his grandmother's wrapper. Just let me try. The old woman looked at the audition form Kemi had gotten from a neighbor. My boy, we have no money for transport to the audition place. And look at your clothes. Kemi looked down at his faded shirt with 3 buttons missing and shorts that were too big for him. The kind we call in Nigeria, Papa Dash Me. But his eyes sparkled with hope. I can take the bus. And I will sing so well, they won't care about my clothes. Mama Sola's heart broke a little. This boy had so much hope, just like his father once did. She remembered how St. Matthew used to sing and dream of being a star. But life had been hard, and when baby Kemi got sick, Matthew had run away instead of staying to help. Kemi, she said softly, your father was a dreamer too. But dreams sometimes hurt more than they help. But Mama, what if this is how my dad finds me? What if he sees me on TV? The old woman was quiet for a long time. Finally, she opened her old purse and counted her coins. There was just enough for bus fare. Okay, my boy. We try. But promise me, if it doesn't work, you won't be too sad. Kemi jumped up and down, hugging his grandmother tight. I promise. And I will make you proud. That night, Kemi practiced his song over and over. It was the lullaby Mama Sola used to sing to him, the same one his mother had sung when he was a baby. He did not know that this lullaby would change everything. The audition center was huge and full of people. Kemi had never seen so many musicians, dancers, and performers in one place. His heart beat fast like a drum. Number 247, Kemi Sola. Called a lady with a clipboard. Kemi's hands shook as he walked to the stage. The lights were so bright he could barely see the judges sitting behind a long table. "What's your name, young man?" asked a kind female judge. "Kemi Sola, ma. I am 7 years old, and I am from Lagos." In the judge's seat, St. Matthew felt his heart skip. Kemi. The name hit him like lightning. But this boy's last name was Sola, not Daniels. It couldn't be. "Tell us about yourself, Kemi," said another judge. Kemi stood up straight, trying to be brave. "I live with my grandmother, Mama Sola. My mummy died when I was small, and my dad. He went away. But I sing because it makes me happy, and maybe one day, it will bring my family back together." St. Matthew gripped his pen so tight it almost broke. His mind raced. The boy's age was right. The name was right. And those eyes. They looked just like his own. "What will you sing for us today?" St. Matthew asked, his voice shaking a little. "A song my grandmother taught me. She said my mum used to sing it to me when I was a baby." Daniel's world stopped spinning. He knew that song. He had helped write it with Kemi's mother, Stella, all those years ago. Kemi closed his eyes and began to sing. Little star, shining in the night. Mama's here, don't you fear, everything's alright. Dream of birds, dream of trees, dream of skies so blue. Close your eyes, little star, Mama's watching you." St. Matthew's eyes filled with tears. This was the song. This was his son. His own boy, standing on the stage, singing the lullaby they had created together so long ago. The other judges looked confused. They had never seen St. Matthew cry during an audition. "That was beautiful, Kemi," said the female judge. "Where did you learn that song?" "My grandmother taught me. She said my dad helped make it up with my mum, but he left before I could know him." St. Matthew wanted to jump up and run to the stage. He wanted to hug his son and never let go. But he sat frozen, not knowing what to do. "Kemi," St. Matthew said, his voice very quiet, "what was your mother's name?" "Stella, sir. Stella Daniel, but she died when I was 3. Now St. Matthew was sure. This was his son. His beautiful, brave son who had grown up without a father because of his own fear and foolishness. "Well, Kemi," said the female judge after whispering with the others, "you have a beautiful voice. We will let you know our decision soon." As Kemi walked off the stage, St. Matthew made a decision that would change both their lives forever. That evening, Matthew sat in his hotel room, staring at a photo of Stella and baby Kemi. He had carried it in his wallet for 7 years, looking at it every day and regretting his choice to leave. He picked up his phone and called his driver. "Take me to the address I'm going to give you. And hurry." Meanwhile, Kemi and Mama Sola rode the bus home. Kemi was quiet, thinking about the judges. "Did you see how one of the judges looked at you?" Mama Sola asked. "The tall man with the kind eyes? He seemed familiar." Kemi nodded. "He asked about Mama's name. Do you think he knew her?" Mama Sola's heart began to beat faster. Could it be? After all these years? When they reached their small home, there was a big car parked outside. A man in a nice suit was waiting by their door. "Excuse me," the man said nervously. "You must be the young boy from the audition. I am looking for Mama Sola and her grandson, Kemi." Mama Sola grabbed Kemi's hand tight. "Who wants to know?" The man turned around, and Mama Sola gasped. Even after 15 years, she knew that face. St. Matthew. Matthew Daniels. Kemi looked up at the tall man with the kind eyes. "You're the judge from today. Saint Matthew knelt down so he was eye level with Kemi. Tears ran down his face. "Hello, my son. I am your father." Kemi stared at the man claiming to be his father. He had dreamed of this moment so many times, but now he felt scared and confused. "You left us," Kemi said in a small voice. "Why did you leave?" Saint Matthew's heart broke into a million pieces. "I was young and foolish, Kemi. I was scared I couldn't take care of you and your mother properly. I thought you would be better without me, but I was wrong. So very wrong." Mama Sola watched with tears in her eyes. She had been angry at Matthew for so long, but seeing him now, she could see the pain he had carried all these years. "I tried to find you," Saint Matthew continued. "I looked everywhere. I didn't know your mother had passed away. I didn't know you were living here with Mama Sola. But you're rich now," Kemi said, looking at Saint Matthew's expensive clothes and car. "You forgot about us." "No, my son. Not a day passed that I didn't think about you. I became successful hoping that one day, it would help me find you and take care of you. Every song I produced, every star I discovered, I wondered if you loved music too." Kemi was quiet for a long moment. Then he asked, "Did you really help Mama write my lullaby?" Saint Matthew smiled through his tears. "Yes. We wrote it together the night you were born. You were so tiny and perfect, and we wanted to give you a song that would always remind you that you were loved." Over the next few weeks, Saint Matthew visited Kemi and Mama Sola every day. He was careful not to rush things. He knew Kemi needed time to get used to having a father. Matthew bought them a nicer house in a safe neighborhood, but he let Mama Sola choose everything. He gave Kemi new clothes and toys, but more importantly, he gave him time and attention. "Daddy," Kemi said one evening as they sat together, "will you teach me to write songs?" Saint Matthew's heart filled with joy. "I would love nothing more, my son." They started spending hours together, making music and talking. Matthew told Kemi stories about his mother and how much she had loved him. Kemi sang his heart out, and Saint Matthew marveled at his son's natural talent. But there was still the matter of the talent show. The producers had called to say Kemi had made it to the next round. "I don't want special treatment because you're my father," Kemi said seriously. "I want to win because I'm good." Saint Matthew smiled. "You are good, Kemi. Very good. And I promise, the other judges and I will judge you fairly." The day of the competition arrived. The theater was packed with families cheering for their loved ones. Kemi peeked out from behind the curtain and saw Mama Sola in the front row, wearing her best dress. "Are you nervous?" asked Sarah, a girl dancer who had become Kemi's friend during rehearsals. "A little," Kemi admitted. "But I'm singing for my family now. All of them." When it was Kemi's turn, he walked onto the stage with confidence. The lights were bright, but this time he wasn't scared. He could see his grandmother smiling at him, and he knew his father was watching from the judges' table. "Tonight, I want to sing a new song," Kemi announced. "My father and I wrote it together. It's called Finding My Way Home." Saint Matthew's eyes widened. They had worked on the song together, but he didn't know Kemi planned to perform it. Kemi began to sing. "I was lost, but now I'm found. My heart was quiet, now it makes a sound. Through the darkness, through the pain. Love has brought me home again. Sometimes people go away. But love can bring them back one day. Now I know I'm not alone. Love has brought me home." The audience was completely silent, hanging on every word. Even the other judges had tears in their eyes. When Kemi finished, the theater erupted in applause. People jumped to their feet, clapping and cheering. "That was incredible, Kemi," said the female judge. "You've grown so much as a performer." "Thank you, Ma," Kemi said with a big smile. Saint Matthew stood up from the judges' table. Ladies and gentlemen, I need to tell you something. This brave young man is not just a talented singer. He is my son." The audience gasped in surprise. For 7 years, I made the biggest mistake of my life by not being in his life. But through music, through this competition, we found each other again. Kemi, you are the most talented singer I know, not because you're my son, but because you sing with your whole heart. The competition continued, and Kemi made it to the final round. On the night of the finale, he was set to compete against 5 other amazing performers. But before the show started, St. Matthew had one more surprise. "Kemi," he said backstage, "there's someone I want you to meet." A beautiful woman with kind eyes walked over to them. She looked familiar to Kemi, but he couldn't place where he had seen her before. "This is Miss Ruth," St. Matthew said. "She's been my friend for many years, and she's been helping me look for you." Ruth knelt down and smiled at Kemi. "Your father talked about you every day. He never stopped loving you or looking for you." "Miss Ruth used to be a singer too," St. Matthew added. "But now she helps children who love music. She wants to start a music school, and she was hoping. Well, maybe you could help her with it." Kemi's eyes lit up. "Really? I could help other kids learn to sing." "If you want to," Ruth said gently. "We could teach children from all backgrounds, rich and poor, to follow their dreams through music." St. Matthew watched his son's face and saw the same generous spirit that his mother had possessed. Kemi didn't just want to be a star, he wanted to help others shine too. The finale night was electric with excitement. 5,000 people filled the arena, and millions more watched on television across Nigeria. Kemi was the youngest finalist, but he wasn't nervous anymore. He had his family cheering for him, and he had found his purpose. For his final performance, Kemi chose to sing the lullaby that had brought him and his father together, but he added new verses that told their story. As he sang, images of their journey played on the big screen behind him, from his audition day to their reunion to their new life together. Little star, you were never alone. Though the road was long and dark, love will guide you home. Dreams can come true if you believe. Love is stronger than the pain we feel." The audience was crying, laughing, and cheering all at once. Even the hardest-hearted people in the arena were wiping away tears. When the votes were counted, Kemi didn't win first place. He came in second, but he didn't care. He had won something much more valuable, his family. "I'm proud of you," St. Matthew whispered as he hugged his son on stage. "I'm proud of you too, Daddy," Kemi whispered back. The music school was beautiful. It was painted bright yellow and blue, with big windows that let in lots of sunlight. Above the door was a sign that read, "Stellus Music Academy, where every child's voice matters." Kemi stood in front of a class of 20 children, teaching them his favorite warm-up exercises. At 7 years old, he was the youngest music teacher in Nigeria, but the children loved him because he understood their dreams. "Remember," Kemi told his students, "it doesn't matter if you have fancy clothes or a big house. If you sing with your heart, people will listen." St. Matthew watched from the doorway, his heart full of pride. Beside him stood Ruth and Mama Sola, all of them amazed at how much joy Kemi brought to everyone around him. That evening, as the family sat down for dinner in their new home, Kemi made an announcement. "Dad, I've been thinking. I want to change my last name." St. Matthew looked up, surprised. "To what, my son?" "I want to be Kemi Daniel Sola. That way, I keep Mama Sola's name because she raised me, but I also have your name because you're my papa." Mama Sola's eyes filled with happy tears. "That sounds perfect, my boy." St. Matthew reached across the table and took both their hands. "We're a family now. All of us together." 1 year later, the garden was decorated with white and gold flowers. Kemi stood next to his father, both of them wearing matching white agbatas with gold embroidery. "Are you ready, Dad?" Kemi asked with a mischievous smile. St. Matthew straightened his son's cap. Are you ready to have a new mama? Kemi nodded enthusiastically. Miss Ruth is the best. She taught me how to play piano, and she makes the best jollof rice. The music started, and Ruth walked down the aisle in a beautiful white dress with gold trim. She looked like a princess, and Kemi couldn't stop grinning. During the ceremony, instead of the traditional vows, St. Matthew and Ruth chose to sing their promises to each other. Kemi joined in, creating a three-part harmony that brought tears to everyone's eyes. With this song, I promise to love you, they sang together. With this melody, I promise to stay. Through all the music of our lives, I'll love you more each day. After they were declared husband and wife, Kemi ran to them and hugged them both tight. Now we're a real family, he announced to the cheering crowd. Mama Sola watched from the front row, her heart overflowing with happiness. The little boy she had raised alone was now surrounded by love, and she knew Stella would be proud. 2 years after the wedding, Kemi was now 9 years old and had become a small celebrity in Nigeria. He had released an album of children's songs, and all the profits went to building more music schools across the country. One morning, Ruth woke up feeling sick. She had been tired for weeks, and St. Matthew was worried about her. I think you should see a doctor, he said gently. That afternoon, Ruth came home from the doctor's office with a huge smile on her face. Family meeting, she called out. Matthew, Kemi, and Mama Sola gathered in the living room. Ruth looked at each of them, her eyes sparkling with joy. I have some wonderful news, she said. We're going to have a baby. Kemi jumped up so high he nearly hit the ceiling. Really? I'm going to be a big brother. Yes, my sweet boy. You're going to be the best big brother in the world. St. Matthew swept Ruth into his arms and spun her around. Mama Sola clapped her hands and started planning baby clothes. That night, as Kemi lay in his bed, he thought about how much his life had changed. 3 years ago, he was a poor boy with just a grandmother and a dream. Now he had a father, a stepmother, and soon, a little brother or sister. He whispered a prayer of thanks and fell asleep humming his favorite lullaby. To God be the glory. Author's note. This story shows us that sometimes the greatest treasures in life come not from winning competitions or becoming famous, but from the love of family and the joy of helping others achieve their dreams. Kemi's journey reminds us that it's never too late to come home, and it's never too early to start dreaming. The real victory wasn't in any prize or trophy, it was in a father and son finding each other through the universal language of music, and in their decision to use their gifts to lift up others along the way. After all, the most beautiful songs are the ones that bring people together, and the greatest performances are the ones that inspire others to find their own voice and sing their own dreams into reality. The end. If this story inspired you, please click the subscribe button and support our journey in sharing more heartwarming stories like this. Thank you for watching, your support means the world to us.